Hello, everyone. My name is Devonna.
Hi, I'm Shanyce.
Welcome back to 90 Day Sisters, episode 4. Today, our topic is discussing the more specific difficulties of being in an international long-distance relationship. Okay, so first we're going to start with giving some backstory in case some of you are joining us for the first time. If you are, go back and watch the other episodes, but you're welcome to start here. So, Shanyce, can you tell us, for those that don't know, where is your fiancé from?
He's from the Dominican Republic.
And how long have you guys been dating now?
Almost 2 years.
And what is your current relationship status?
We are engaged.
What is your plan as far as getting married moving forward?
Our plan is to do the K-1 visa, so have him come over to the States and then get married within 90 days of him getting here.
So now that we have a little history on them, can you speak about some of the difficulties that you guys experience when it comes to communication?
Yeah, I think it's just hard. A lot of our communication is through text, and I just feel like that's always just a hard way to communicate. Not being able to, I guess, since communication is not just talking, but like being able to visually see them when you're talking, tones and stuff like that, that can be difficult to come across through text message. So that is one thing I would say is really difficult. When we're talking on the phone, it's fine, but yeah, it's hard to come across through everything through text. So
what is the main way that the two of you communicate? And is there a reason that text tends to be what you do more often versus like video calling or something?
Video calling is not as easy just because where he lives, it's not the best internet. So a lot of times it's not very good reception, and we'll get cut off a lot. So it's very frustrating. So we just prefer to do texting. We do call, but also that just kind of depends on the time frame, I guess, that we have, or the time that we have for the day to be able to talk. So if we want to talk throughout the whole day, texting is definitely our main way of communicating. It's just the easiest for us.
Okay, so what about, since he's from the Dominican Republic, his first language is Spanish. Can you speak a little more about how the language affects your relationship, or if it doesn't, in what ways?
So I don't want to necessarily say it affects our relationship. It definitely, I guess later down the line and right now, it affects my relationship with his family. They all speak Spanish, and not a lot of them. His sister speaks English, but other people in his family don't really speak English. So it's super hard to communicate with them, especially his mother. She only speaks Spanish. So yeah, that can be difficult at times, but he speaks English really well, so we don't have a problem in that area for just like us two.
Okay. Now, how about work-life balance? How does that work between the two of you?
So it's rather difficult. We both have full-time jobs, and it's different in the Dominican Republic. They don't have, I guess, as many rules or regulations or restrictions, I guess I would say, dealing with work.
So clarify that a little bit for me. So you're saying, explain more about, you're saying, the times changing, expectations when you go into work. How does that differ there?
So yes, I would say that they don't have as many work regulations as us in America do. So they could, I guess, use their employees a little more. Like we would do 40 hours a week and you get paid overtime. If he does over 40 hours a week, he's not necessarily getting paid overtime, and he has to stay at his job more or less, versus if we were okay, we don't want to work 40 hours a week, we want to go home, we're okay, we're probably not going to get fired.
Or you have more protection.
Yes.
For that kind of thing, whereas that's something that's missing.
Yes, there.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. So you're not as able to so you may say, okay, you're going to work now, you're going to be off in 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We'll catch up, I'll give you an hour to, bathe and eat dinner or whatever, and then let's chat at 7.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily going to be the fact, because if they keep him at work,
yeah,
and if he's not able to let you know, hey, my boss just said, I'm staying 2-3 hours later,
then I just gotta wait and figure out, I guess, see what happens.
And you can imagine how ladies get when you're just sitting there it's 7,
and it's not the safest place either, so that's a little,
so you can get nervous if you don't hear from him at the time you thought. Okay,
yeah,
that makes sense. Okay, got you.
So he can he might have to work 8 hours, but it might end up being 10 hours. So it's kind of hard to, I guess, talk, just because when he's at work he can't quite be on the phone as much as I have a little bit more freedom of being able to be on the phone, like texting or whatever. He can't do that as much with his job, and then also his work hours are pretty unpredictable. He has a pretty unpredictable schedule, and yeah, once again, like he can say he's supposed to work for 8 hours, but he might have to stay there longer, so that can be really tricky.
What about the fact that, of course, being in long distance, you guys are not physically together? Can you talk about how that plays a part in your relationship?
I think it's hard just not being there with him, not being able to visualize things. Like I've never been to his house where he lives right now. So it's kind of hard to just, when he's talking about things, like I can't visualize, oh, like this is where you're at, like this is your living room. I can't visualize that. When he talks about his friends, I haven't met any of his friends from the Dominican Republic, so it's also really hard to kind of visualize. Like I know them, but I don't know them because I've never met them. So it's kind of hard to really be a part or like in his life when you haven't actually experienced it, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. Now it's Donna's turn, so I'm going to ask her some questions. So let's get some background on you and your man. So where is he from?
He's from Jamaica.
And how long have you guys been dating?
3 years.
And what is your relationship status?
We are engaged.
Since you guys are not here or not together physically, what's one of the things, I guess, that you miss with you guys being in the same location?
So one of the huge things for me is not being able to go on dates. I haven't been on many dates in my life in general, so it's like, okay, finally in a relationship, this is finally something I thought I would be able to look forward to doing, and it's just, that's not exactly how it is. For one, like when we were together when I was in Jamaica, dating culture is not the same as America. So even when we were physically together, that was a barrier because what I experienced as dating culture is still not what he knows. And then when we are together, like when I visited him last in Canada, it was difficult still because we had our son with us, which we have a son together. And we're not really around people that we know because he was up there on his own and as was I. So there was no one to watch the baby. So it's different when we're taking family dates. You want to take time to spend just with one another, but we've got him third wheeling it, so.
Yeah, he's the best third wheel. Okay. So, I guess since he lives in Jamaica, what would be some limitations with him living in Jamaica?
So some of the big things are internet. So I lived there for a while, and when I was there, internet was not a thing. I mean, you have to buy airtime or, I don't know, minutes, whatever you call it. You have to buy the internet that you use. It's expensive. It goes away quickly. Where he is, they have a couple different companies. The signal is not great. So, I mean, even when you have internet, is it actually going to be reliable and stable? Now they finally brought internet to his part of the island, so that's really nice. So we're able to talk a little more, but it's still not always the greatest. And it's expensive to keep up with. Another thing is just that, eventually we'll talk about, ways to date long distance, but some of the ideas that I have that I would do if he lives somewhere else just are not feasible because different parts of Jamaica are at different levels of development, and so he's in one of the parts that's really rural. So maybe you'd think hey, let's go watch the same movie at the movie theater and then talk about it afterwards. Access to the movies is not a real thing. Having access to different entertainment venues, that's just not realistic, even though that could be one way to date long distance, but we just don't have that luxury.
Being long distance, what's one of the main limitations, I guess, for you guys?
We started our relationship off in the same place, and then I went back home. So we've been distance for a little while. I have been able to see him at least once, maybe more a year. That is very difficult, though, because it is expensive, for one. Number two, traveling with the baby. That's another thing. Also, getting the time off. We're always talking about the 90 Day Fiancé show because we are big fans. But, when people go and spend a month or 3 weeks or however long they spend with their spouses, we were watching this video the other day of someone on YouTube, and she was with her spouse for 6 months. Well, she was a YouTuber. That's why she could do it. But I mean, it's just, I don't know how people get this time off. It's hard to earn time off, and then you have to spend it wisely, because then I have to break up my time between, like, you know, when I'm not living near my family, like maybe I want to go spend Christmas with them, but I want to take a trip to go see my fiance. And I just refuse to take a trip that costs so much money and spend a few days there. Like, if I'm going to go, I'm going to get my money's worth. So that is always like a big struggle. And then the other thing is just the inconvenience of time difference. So I've lived at a couple different spots since we've been together. But I mean, even 2-3 hour difference, it's like, you know, if I get off of work at 5 or 6 or whatever, you know, and then it's already like 9-10 there, he's ready to go to sleep. So that can be difficult, you know, just trying to match everything up so that everything's convenient for everyone. Like, I want to respect his sleep time, but I also want to talk to him. So that's hard.
Dating, you don't just date that person, you date their whole family. Are there like hardships, I guess, with dealing with that?
I think getting the support. So in this situation, it's more our family here. Because when I spent a significant amount of time in Jamaica, of course, so I was able to meet, interact with his family, all of that. But they haven't been able to really meet my family, and my family hasn't been able to meet my fiance. So I think, like, as much as your family may want to support you if they're on board with something like this, it can still be difficult just not really knowing someone. They've been able to speak to him over the phone, video chat, and stuff like that, but there's only, I think, so much of a connection you can make there.
Working, how do you guys like do with that?
So that is interesting, because Jamaica, and everybody knows this, is, you know, very, the Irie culture is very like hang back, chill, relax. Things are not as, you know, rigid in Jamaica, which is something I really, really love. And, you know, America is just the opposite. So it can be difficult with communication, as far as sometimes over communicating or under communicating. Like, the Jamaican culture just gives him a little more ability to be available more often than I can most of the time. And that's difficult because it's like, okay, you know, he's ready to talk, but I'm not able to. My schedule just doesn't allow it. It doesn't fit in as well. So I think that can be a little difficult, you know, to tell someone that wants to talk to you or feels they need to talk to you at that time, like, I'm at work, I'm not in the, you know, position where I can do that. And, you know, having them being understanding of the culture, because they are very different. He's never experienced American culture firsthand, where I've experienced Jamaican culture and have the Jamaican background. So I think I'm a little more understanding in that department, but that's difficult to navigate as well.